Hey everyone, it's Wade. Just a quick message before the show starts. We're really excited to announce we've started up a Patreon account for Sci-gasm podcast. We have memberships ranging from only $1 to $2 per episode. These memberships include being a part of the Facebook group where you can interact, share material, and offer suggestions about the show with Byrne, myself, and other listeners, and even get a shout out on the show. But all our Patreon members get access to exclusive content that we didn't really want to release, but kind of thought, it's funny, we have to release it anyway. You can find out more by clicking the link in the episode description below, or if you're listening on Podbean, you can click the Be a Patron button. All the money goes straight back into the show. We love what we do, and we love the fact that you guys love listening. However, if you can't assist financially, that's cool. Just do your part by leaving a nice review. Thank you, guys. This week's Sci-gasmic member shout-outs go to Kemiel Winnitz, Craig Porter, Sarah Talk Podcast, and the greatest name I've ever heard, Cheese Dick Mick Douche Nozzle. Esk. Yeah, the Esk at the end. Anyway, hope you enjoy the show.
Wait, I'm sorry, man. I thought coming to the Pleasure Palace would be a great way to do research for this episode.
Oh, no, man, this is awesome. This is awesome. Yeah! Give it to me! Give it to me, Madam Ursula! Come on!
Why did you pick that stupid Welsh town as the safety word?
Well, if you can't pronounce Lynn Fairwheel, Rinton Till Willington Silly Gosh, then it's on you! Yeah! Give it to me, madam, you little bitch! Come on!
Oh, what's that?
Oh, yeah!
Oh, what has she got now?
Oh, yeah! Yes! Let's get to it!
You know how hard this was to research and try and sound genuinely like I was doing work? I don't know
Well, that was lovely, Bert. It's really nice to get out there and just really experience the topic, you know?
I'm glad you had a good time, mate. I have to go back to a doctor to get a Benoit ball removed this afternoon.
Well, I'll send you your regards because I'm going back there this afternoon.
Oh, mate. Well, I'm going to do this episode standing up if that's all right with you.
That's all right.
Okay, good. So, we're doing an episode on fetishes.
Yeah.
Okay, fetish and kink. So, fetish. Doing the research for this, going to stick to the internet from now on.
Yeah,
Incognito.
We're that
dear.
close we finish each other's sentences.
Oh, dear. So, fetish. What is
Yeah.
a fetish? It's this is my own definition. I strung it together from a few
This
different
is
places.
like the cats and dogs episode that we've done or going to do.
No, it's not. This one has a lot more science in it.
Oh, good.
Okay. Now, a fetish is a rare sexual preference for an atypical or variant of usual sexual interests. Mm-hmm. So, usual sexual interest, I assume, just means genitals and,
Colliding and sticky
that
stuff.
kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, when we're talking about fetishes, we're talking about things that we don't usually associate with sexuality. That's what we mean by fetishes.
Okay.
Okay. People who have fetishes are known as paraphiliacs.
Oh, paraphiliacs. It sounds like some sort of like Greco-Roman wrestler.
Yeah, that's right. Or fetishists is another word I've come across in my
Fetishes.
research.
That sounds even better.
Yeah. Now, we don't really know how many people out there are paraphiliacs or fetishists. As you can imagine, it's not the most popular thing to come forward with. People looking for study samples, looking for people with fetishes.
Hi, I'm Wade. I like feet.
Yeah. Exactly. That's one of the problems with doing research in this. But there is a lot of stigma attached to it still, which makes it exceedingly difficult to collect data. So...
What's that? No one wants to fess up to the fetish.
How clean.
That's awesome.
No one's
That's
to kind
awesome.
of go,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm really into raincoats. Yeah.
Oh, look at the finish on that coat.
Yeah. Damn, I just love the color red. Oh. But because of this, we're not really sure if fetishes are the results of genetics or if they're environmental. Early indications we think they're environmental, but maybe there's a genetics predisposition to, I don't know, carrots or something.
I wonder like I got trapped in a room full of women with no shoes.
I don't have a foot fetish, by the way. I've mentioned it twice. I don't have a foot fetish.
If you do have a fetish, a foot fetish is way up there. So fetishists or paraphiliacs seem to be pretty rare. So the preliminary studies that come out put them in the population somewhere between about 0.1% to about 3.5% of the population have some sort of fetish. Okay, but we don't really know, and that's a pretty broad range, really. And they think that's to do with the stigma. Perhaps less surprising is that fetishes are far more common in men than women.
No, really?
Who'd have thunk, right? Who'd have thunk? Now, in 2015, there was this study completed which started to kind of look into particularly the BDSM side of fetishes. Get this, the study was called 50 Shades of Stigma. Now, there was a number of about 115 people in San Francisco, and they just asked them questions about it. So these people were paraphiliacs, fetishists, and they asked them about their sort of perceptions of healthcare system and their attitudes towards them.
Yeah.
Because as we found out, it can be pretty dangerous.
And pleasant.
Yeah. Now, a lot of them didn't want to talk to their medical practitioners about their kink for fear of stigmatization.
Okay.
So that brings up problems. Because there is serious, problems. They can put themselves in harm's way quite repeatedly. I suppose if you've got a gag on, it's kind of hard to use a safety word. Now, a lot of the times, though, when they kind of feared also going to the doctor in the first place, because if they did go and they were uncomfortable admitting to their fetish, they were scared that the doctor might think that their partner was domestically violent.
Oh, Jesus.
So you can see there's this raft of issues coming out to do with these sort of fetishes, right?
And you wonder as well, like that's quite a small number. You're saying about 3.3%.
Absolutely.
And that's only the people that are willing to come forward about it. I think you might find it's a lot more than that. I think if people are honest about their love of things such as
all things sexy
midgets
and
feet.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, let's get into it.
Overweight people.
Let's get into the shall we say, demographics of the fetish.
Demo of the fet.
Now, there's really only been one major study into fetishes, which was in the International Journal of Impotence Research, and was re-released by Nature.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was in 2007. Now, it was called The Relative Prevalence of Different Fetishes. Now, this was pretty...
Is that like the version of academic porn?
I have no idea, actually. How many academics are reading that? Who's got a subscription to that? Oh, I can't wait for the next issue of International Journal of Impotence Research.
I don't think impotence is something you really get off on.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Well, that's the argument, is if you have a serious fetish, then you're kind of need these things to get off. You can't otherwise, so it's a problem.
Oh, okay.
So it becomes a thing like impotence. It's a condition in many cases. But we'll get into the issues associated with the health later. Now, let's focus on this paper. So they looked at they actually used the internet discussion boards for that anonymity because we had problems with people coming forward. But they got about 150,000 people. 150,000 people to come forward and talk about their fetishes.
Except this one person called Byrne Sci-gasm 88. Very open and honest about his fetish of...
He was on a lot of the...
weird things.
He was in a lot of the discussion groups as well.
In fact, it appears he's invented 3 new fetishes.
Well, there was about... more than 5,000 of 150,000 people on these discussion boards. There are more than 5,000 fetishists. More than. So that's the lowest. That's a very conservative estimate. So even that puts it about 3.4%. And because it was the internet, they figured, the anonymity, people are more inclined to be open about their ideas. Yeah. As we've discovered on many posts we've made, people are way more happy to tell you shit you don't want to hear on the internet. Now, they broke down into these different categories, right?
Yeah.
So it was something to do with fetishes to do with body parts or features. Now, remember, fetishes is something we would associate with unusual things. The other part was objects. And the third category, major category, was behaviors.
Right.
Guess which one was the most popular?
What, out of all fetishes?
Out of all the different fetishes, what's the most common?
I guess you'd say feet, I'm assuming, because that's the one that's most popular, and you associate with the full fetish, you think feet.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Feet was by far the most popular. So if we're talking body parts or body things to do with the body, it was about 33% of all fetishes were body related. And a majority of those were to do with feet.
I don't find feet attractive. They're not an attractive thing.
Oh, yeah, I can admire a nice pair of feet, and I can distinguish between an ugly pair of feet, but I've Never wanted to rub myself on them, Like, give myself a foot job or something. That's never been on the cards for me.
Oh, there was this one thing that was going on Facebook. It was like tag someone and don't say anything. You know how that they've got those videos now, and it was like a girl like looking at a camera sucking her big toe, and I'm like, this doesn't do anything. It's not attractive.
I don't know why I'm still
disgusting.
watching this.
It's just why are my pants off? No.
It is.
Yeah, you just got what I
I
said.
don't know. How do you loop this again? Yeah. But like there was some other. So the body parts is features as well. So some people are into, say, obese people. That's their fetish. Okay, now
More
their own, I
cushion
guess.
for the pushing.
Yeah, that's right. Now that was about 30% of people were into the body parts. Certain behaviors took up about 25%. And there's another 7% of social interactions. The behaviors could include things like biting fingernails. That was a fetish for some. Fighting. So they'd watch people fight and they'd get off on watching people fight. Smoking. There's not much I find less attractive than a smoker.
Yeah, don't smoke.
Yeah, maybe after sex. That's good.
I was going to say don't smoke kids, but that was just really inappropriate if you're talking about you don't find it attractive.
Oh, yeah, no, that is inappropriate.
Yeah, my apologies.
That's all right. Now, the last and smallest group was particularly objects. And the most popular object that is associated with fetishes?
Most popular object. So, object you can purchase.
Object you can purchase that people find sexually arousing.
I reckon it'd have to be either handcuffs or a gag.
No, because those are, maybe, but they're sort of associated with sexy times anyway. Remember, fetishes are non-sexual. I'll give you a clue. It's got strongly to do with the favoured body parts.
Oh, a dildo.
No, that's very sexual. That really only has one purpose.
Oh.
Unless you had a wooden spoon
A cucumber?
or something. Yeah.
Is it a cucumber?
No, it's shoes.
Oh,
Shoes are the most popular object. A couple of things I found weird. They mentioned dishes in there as well and candles. Who the fuck's getting turned on by dishes? Oh, look at the whiteness of that plate.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. Scrape it in the bin.
Oh, rub that bowl on my bare naked body.
Oh, look at those soap suds.
Oh, yeah. Now, interestingly enough, of all the people with fetishes, about 70% of them only have one fetish. So that's 30% have more than one fetish. So there is a few different things around there, if you know what I mean, that they're going for a variety of things. But most people have their thing. You know what I mean?
Their thing.
That's their thing.
Is it like, this is my thing, get your own type?
I don't know if it's get your own. I think they're like, this is my thing. Can you help me out a little bit?
The more the merrier.
Now, interestingly, when I was researching this, foot fetishes, okay? Let's focus on the foot because that's the most popular fetish.
Yeah.
Get this. Foot fetish strongly coincides with historical outbreaks of STDs. And I'm not talking like recently. I'm talking centuries ago.
I'm going to assume, and just looking at it, that the foot fetish comes about by someone being a lot more sexually active and engaging with more partners. So you would get foot fetish because you are more sexually active. Maybe it's not a causation, but more a correlation. What do I mean by that? So what you're saying? So
So genitals stop turning you off and you move to feet? Is that what you're saying? Like, I'm kind of getting over the hoo-hoo.
No, but like what I'm saying is
maybe I'll put it between some toes.
You've got genital like herpes, and this is true for you. This really applies to you. Listen up. And so you're obviously more sexually active, so you might be more into feet. You might be more inclined to fetishes if you are more sexually active. So
I see what you're saying.
Not a causation, but more of a correlation.
Yeah, you're actually not far off. That's one of the suggested reasons. So they think that spikes in STDs make people less inclined to have sex because, you risk a disease. And through history, we've seen in, say, art history as well, the rise or more prevalence of feet in artworks. And there was apparently an increase in pornography associated with feet in the 80s, which coincided with the AIDS outbreak as well. And they think it's something to do with people going, well, if I go towards the junk area, I might get a disease. So you know what? Even though the feet smell a bit, at least I'm not going to get syphilis. Wouldn't want to get tinea on your ball sack, though. Foot fetish. At least you're not going to get syphilis.
That's it.
Tinea. At least it's not syphilis.
At least it's not dick tinea.
Oh,
Dinia.
Yeah. Oh, could you imagine? Oh, now look.
Yeah, imagine.
Imagine, yeah. No, yeah, no, yes. Yes, imagine.
Yes, that'll do.
Oh, so why do fetishes come about?
I'm going to say, well, I guess you look at like nature versus nurture type thing. I'm going to say it could be both in that maybe, because I'm coming from a very ignorant standpoint, and so I don't want to kind of be like, if you like sex and you've got a fetish, but I'm going to say that if you are more sexually active, you might be more inclined to have fetishes, and maybe some boredom or something like that might lead to it, or past events may lead to a foot fetish, or you just may just genetically just want to get those toes in your mouth.
I don't know. Well, look, there's been a few theories that have popped up around, hypotheses actually, have popped up around the place.
Good correction.
But, yeah, thank you. Good save. But the short of it is we're not really sure. We've got some ideas and some correlative aspects, but when you start looking into some of these studies, they change over time, and we're not 100%. In fact, even our definition of fetish has changed over time, and it is a psychology definition as well, so, you know.
Oh, come on. We just interviewed Nozek. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, well, what did he say?
Yeah.
So there was a past idea that fetishes were linked to epilepsy, so some sort of wiring in the brain.
It's just like if you masturbate, you'll go blind.
Well, it kind of was, because when they looked into the study, they realized the study was conducted only with epileptic patients.
This is a good place to test it.
And these were the patients that were identified as well in these sort of mental health institutions. So that got scrapped pretty quickly. Then there was a later idea that came out that maybe it was to do with the wiring in the brain, and because the control center for your genitals is supposedly very close in the brain area-wise to where your feet are. So maybe because things are flowing through the genital area and they bypass the foot, that there might be something there. But it doesn't explain how people who have had brain injuries or other people that have had certain fetishes that aren't foot fetishes have them as well. So that gets scrapped pretty well. And many of these ideas don't really stand up to scrutiny.
Okay.
But like, all right, let's go into what a fetishist really is. Okay? So let's try and box them in if we can. I'm sorry to anyone out there who's got a fetish. Okay. So a fetishist will have a significant difficulty, like a real problem, or they actually won't be able to reach orgasm at all without their particular stimulus present.
Oh. So me looking at a photo of you could be considered a fetish?
Well, it could be if you have to look at it every time. It probably is.
Well, it's a fetish.
I don't know, to be flattered or not. Yeah, I'll be flattered. That's lovely.
Oh, you'll be splattered.
That's why you keep asking me for fresh photos, is it?
Just photo frames.
Oh, jeez. Now, fetishes seem to be, while they're not common, fetishists aren't common, fetishes seem to be. They reckon about 1 in 3 people in the US have taken part in a sexual fetish, at least sexually active people in the US have taken part in a fetish at least once in their lives. Yeah, that's right. Not 1 in 3 people.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, they're around. People pop up. Everyone's heard of a fetish. The foot fetish is a popular one.
Yeah.
BDSM, a bit of kink in there, is another kind of fetish. They reckon that fetishes could be developed in people as young as 4 years old.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and that, I don't know how they really work that
Let's
out.
just not touch that with a 10-foot pole.
No, most fetishes, most of the papers I read say that they develop usually during adolescence, which kind of makes sense, because that's when you're like, I'm going to have a look around. Like, when did you discover porn? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. Any perhaps younger adolescents listening, that porn is not a realistic expectation of sex. Don't expect that's how your virginity is going to go down. It won't. It will not last that long either. Now, the adolescents develop this thing through, they reckon it could be rejection of the opposite sex. They reckon it could be sexual excitement that's somehow developed through, get this, traumatic, emotional, or physical experiences. Now, I'm not sure who goes
like
through
Stockholm Syndrome?
Trauma.
Kind
Yeah,
of
maybe,
thing?
but that could be it. Yeah, because I was trying to understand who's getting sexually aroused through a traumatic experience. Who's in a car accident and is going, oh, I've got a boner. You know?
Oh, that's going to go down as a quote. I mean, that was a quote.
Well, I want to work out where these guys get this data from.
Okay, well, Stockholm Syndrome, like, look at that. That's a
Stockholm
good
Syndrome
example.
does make a bit of sense to me, honestly.
Yeah.
How you can develop that, because that becomes a mental disorder. Now, fetishes, I should stress, are not mental disorders. They can develop into them when they impact on a person's lives, but most of the time it's just a way for people to get off. So, like, power to you.
Yeah, look, not hurting anyone. The other
Yeah, that's
person's
right.
cool with it.
As long as you
You're
don't come
cool
in
with
my
it?
shoe, I'm all good with it, you know?
Oh, jeez. There's some great one-liners on this episode. Oh, Jesus.
All right. Now, let me get into some of these scientific studies. See if
Okay.
I can actually get some science in there. There was a study in 2015 which looked at the sexual activity of college students from 4 countries. Now, I reckon if you're going to sample a population of sexually active people, college students are probably the go-to.
Yeah, that would definitely the go-to.
Had a population size of 26,000, almost 27,000 actually,
Woo.
looking at it. And what they specifically looked at was their attitudes towards sex and sex on the internet. So looking stuff up on the internet. They didn't want to get too specific into the whole fetish thing. They figured that might get personal.
Yeah.
Now, interesting stats here. 89.8% of them looked up information relating to sex. So something about sex they wanted to. So almost 90% of them are looking up stuff. Tell me about something sexual related. 76.5% of them watched sexual entertainment, aka porn. I don't know why they just didn't write pornography there. Sexual entertainment.
Well, it depends if it's classed as porn or not. Like, what about like a video of a person in a bathing suit dancing or something like that?
Oh, is that sexual entertainment? I don't know. I feel like
Oh,
that's...
like a stripper or something like that? That's not porn.
Oh, it's pretty porno. I'd call
really.
that porn.
Not if they've got their bikini on.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't call that... Oh, I guess so. I'm just going to go with porn.
Okay, all right.
Here's something I found interesting. 48.5%
Can I just say, how many people said that they looked up sexual material, stuff to do with sex?
89.8%.
89.8%. So that means that, was that 10.2% of people lied?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Someone, look, if you're going through, say, 3 to 5 years of study at college, you've looked up something sexual in nature, you know?
Yeah.
The other 10.2 didn't know how to use the internet. That's what I would say.
Yeah, the other 10.2 didn't have a computer.
Now, 48.4. This is what I found interesting. 48.5, almost 50% looked for products. Not necessarily bought them, but were looking for products. I don't think I've ever really perused the internet looking for products. I'd just go to a sex store if I was inclined to get a marital aid.
Marital aid.
Here's another one I found. Have you ever given cyber sex a go? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
I
Just
haven't,
just
I
nod or
haven't.
shake your head.
I haven't.
He's nodding, listeners. He's nodding.
I'm not nodding. He's making it up.
30.8% of them, so almost a third of them had tried cyber sex. Giving that a crack.
Oh.
You wouldn't want your roommate to walk in or something, would you?
Yeah, but this problem is that, like, once something's on the internet, it's up there. And revenge porn, like, they're really cracking down hard on that now.
Yeah, they are.
So you better watch out.
Now, here's an interesting statistic. So think about all those statistics, okay? All those statistics. Less than 1% of them paid for any of it. So it's all freely available on the internet. I'm more interested in that 1% that did pay for these sexual things on the internet. They're serious. When you're willing to dole out cash for porn on the internet, you are, well, excuse the pun, balls deep in it. No?
Yeah. I think to pay for it, it's, geez, like that's you committed, you know. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get a membership. Like,
These freebies aren't cutting it anymore. I'm going to pay for the HD stuff.
yeah. However does this porno end? Yeah.
Oh, great. I have to subscribe. I'll never get closure otherwise.
Will he finish cleaning the pool?
I don't know why it's clean. It looks clean anyway.
Yeah. Wait a minute. There's not even a pool there.
Now, here's some less than surprising. This study took place over 4 countries: Canada, Germany, Sweden, and the USA. There were...
Oh, the Germans.
Yeah, but there was actually no real difference between the usage in all the countries. So they all used proportionally about the same amount of porn and the same amount of values.
Watch?
Yeah, that's a good question. Now, here's something, I don't even know why they bothered to investigate this. There was significantly higher prevalence and frequency of use by men than women. Like,
No.
oh, wow.
That's
Revolutionary. Now, one thing that I thought is
In
interesting...
other news, the Earth is round.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no shit. Like, did you really need to put that in there? Who did they reference for that quote? Well, the thing that I found interesting about this study, though, is it showed that there are higher trends than previous studies. So there are other studies that have gone, and I'm talking like post-internet and people realizing there's a shitload of porn on the internet as well, that showed that this use and sexual attitudes and use on the internet are increasing, which may suggest that we are becoming more sexualized, which might suggest that fetishes are going to become more commonplace.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I know.
Look, I've always maintained if you're not hurting anyone, you're not hurting yourselves, you're not doing anything dangerous.
Unless they're into getting hurt.
Unless you're into getting hurt, but as long as they're safe. I don't see a problem with really anything, provided that both people are willing.
Yeah.
They're both of age. Yes.
Go for it.
Go for it.
Now, tying this all back into fetish, if we're getting more sexualized, we're getting more open to these sexual ideas, maybe the studies into fetishes or paraphiliacs will become more commonplace. And this is a study I read from July of 2017. This might be the
most recent study reference.
Ever. Yeah, absolutely. And it says that in the last 5 years only has there been any significant and real scientific progress into kink and health-related behaviors associated with BDSM. And just as a side note, I looked it up. 50 Shades of Grey was released in 2011, so it's pretty damn close. Maybe it brought it into the mainstream a bit more.
Maybe.
So maybe this whole idea of fetishes becoming more mainstream and being more acceptable and less stigmatized might actually allow us to produce some better quality data where we don't go into internet discussion boards to collect our information.
And good on you, Byrne, for using your real name in that discussion board too.
I just want to get over the stigmatization of it all. Yeah. And I really appreciate people showing me their feet.
In fact, I'm going to an orgy after this. It's interesting because I think really the more that we look at these type of things and the more studies that go into it, the better we're going to understand the psychology of things like fetishes, and the better we'll be able to, I guess, promote this behavior in a safe way. And the more we understand about it, and the more we figure out what drives people to do it, the more that we can address these issues. Like abstinence, it's just not going to work. I'm sorry, it never has worked and it never will. People will have sex. If they want to have sex, they'll have sex. It's a human instinct. And I think the more that we understand it, and the more we become accepting of people's preferences, that provided are in the realms of what would be considered safe.
Yeah, that's the key, isn't it?
Legal.
Making these people's
Not
desires
even
safe.
Not even legal. The law's a bit strange with stuff like that. But as long as it's safe and it's, people are of consent and age, I don't see a huge problem with, this type of research, because the more that we discuss it, the more it gets open, the safer we can implement, environmental health strategies. They're going to help people.
And I think when people rock up to emergency rooms, they're more likely to be honest and not give them the whole "I sat on it" excuse as well. Yeah.
I tripped.
Yeah.
I tripped and fell, and this light globe went up my ass.
Yeah, so to reduce the stigmatization, can you please send us private messages detailing your fetishes in detail? Thank you very much.
Oh, that's disgusting. You can send us a message at facebook.com. You can check us out on Twitter, sci-gasm.com. Thank you for all your support, guys. Leave a review, very important. If you can leave us reviews. I was checking our iTunes account. We've got reviews from all over the world, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that is neat.
Yeah.
Are they in English? Because I can't check them. How am I supposed to get rid of the bad ones if they're not in English?
I don't know.
Google Translate.
Yeah, Google Translate.
Well, leave us a review. We love hearing from you. Whether it's good or bad. The bad stuff actually makes us laugh a lot more in many instances. So.
No, don't leave us a bad review. Leave us a good review. Send us a bad message.
Yeah, bad messages. They're hilarious. Hate mail's always hilarious.
Oh, we love hate mail. We love we love getting called chills. That's a good one. I really enjoy that.
Oh yeah, buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, buy a t-shirt too. Anyway, thanks very much, guys.
Bye.